from the bad guy. I'ma stare him in the eye like, what's up?
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another live Insights of a Survivor. I am your host, PJ. I know we usually have 1 week where it's me and 1 week where there's a guest, but some lines got crossed and things got mixed up, but that's okay because I'm always prepared. I'm always prepared for you. So here I am today, me again. So love it. To talk about some things that may trigger a lot of us. Sorry, there's a gnat in here. So today you're going to hear my fan going. You're going to see me kind of just doing everything freestyle today because it is really hot. It's thundering and storming and lightning, but it's like 9,000 degrees here. So bear with me, okay? But let's just jump into it. This episode contains discussions of abuse, neglect, trauma, sexual violence, and systematic erasure of Black girls and women. It may include comment that is emotionally intense and potentially triggering for survivors. Okay, please take care of yourself and as you listen. If you need support, consider reaching out to a trusted friend or counselor or the crisis helpline. If you need to step away, take a breather, pause, turn this off, do whatever you have to do. My camera's a little lopsided. There we go. And just take care of yourself because this is meant to empower, it's never meant to cause you any type of mental instability. It's never meant to do anything other than to uplift. Okay, something is in my eye. I told you guys it's going to be one of those nights, but that's okay. We're going to keep going no matter what. So today I really want you to listen to what I'm about to say, okay? Not just hear me. I need you guys to listen to me because feel me. It's not really easy for me to bring up this type of subject. This isn't a story for shock value. This comes from my life. And the truth is, when you're Black, when you're a young Black girl, or when you're a Black woman in pain, nobody comes looking for you. This kind of branches off of my my challenge this morning. I spoke about how I was basically overlooked. I spoke about how a friend of mine was shot, and they treated me. I was 14. They treated me like a criminal, and a lot of that pain had to do with me as a Black girl. So that's what kind of really what I wanted to do. I just want to give you that a little introduction, let you know that it's really not something that's for shock value. This is about my life. So I'm going to start with a little bit about me. There was a time when I was young that my mom, okay, now let's remember when I talk about my mom, let's talk about my mom as a human person. She made a lot of mistakes. I do not want to attack her, belittle her, degrade her, or anything. But my story includes her. And I know her story has a lot of trauma and unresolved issues that she's still living with to this day. So when I tell you stories about my mother, it's not to attack her. It's to tell you about me. I'm not trying to get anybody in this situation to be blamed or shamed, but this is my story. And in order for you to understand my healing, you have to know my story. So I am going to share stories with you guys. And I'm just putting that as a trigger warning because I don't want anyone to be angry or resent or hateful towards anyone because I am all about love. That's me. So back to a time in my life where a lot of this stuff is coming from. I'm just going to give you stories about me because I like to give examples about other people's lives. But I'm not ashamed to speak my own truth as well. So there was a time when my mother, she beat me so badly that I thought my face was broken. She she did a number on me because she was drunk. She was going through one of her episodes and she abused me pretty bad. And I didn't run to a friend's house, I did not run to a friend's house that night. I walked about 3 hours across town to my aunt's house. My face was swollen, my jaw was messed up, and my nose was broken, and I felt like it could have been broken because it was just kind of doing this weird clicking thing. My cheek was stinging from her slapping me, and I was bleeding. My nose was bleeding, but I also was bleeding in ways that nobody saw internally, like not literal internal bleeding, but like just a sense of wanting to give up. So I walked about 3 hours to my aunt's house. And when I got there, nobody answered because it was kind of late. I knocked and I knocked and I knocked, and I knocked and I knocked. And it was cold outside. It was dark. It was the middle of the night. And I was about 14 or 15 years old. I was bruised, beat up, swollen up, and I was all by myself. And I kind of just hoped that she would have at least let me in for the night. But no one ever opened the door. And I really don't blame her. Again, that was the middle of the night. You know, I'm not getting out of my bed unless it's an emergency. So call my phone, right? But around the corner was a CPS building. It was like a group home. We called the Jamison Center in the city where I grew up. And I figured I could just get somebody over there to hear me. If I can get someone over there to hear me, then maybe I could finally get some help. So I knocked on the door. And I knocked on the door. I rang a little bell that was out there. And then the worker came out. And I told her everything that was going on. And my mother was drunk. And she was beating me. And then I was scared that I wouldn't survive. I'm like, I'm afraid for my safety. I'm afraid for my life. I said, I have nowhere to go. I'm tired. I'm in pain. Please just help me. Please. She looked at me dead in my face. And she said, I'm sorry, but you're not in state custody, so I can't help you. And I was just like, okay, you know, because it was a group home for children who didn't have placement. And she was like, you know, and the only way that that's going to work is if someone makes a files report and they come to your house, the CPS deems you unsafe, and they, you know, bring you here. I said, okay, well, can you make a report? Can you file a report? Like, she saw my face. She saw my face. She was like, no, I can't. And she closed the door. But I'm like, hey, well, you know, I'm knocking on the door. She opened the door. I'm like, can I file a report? And she was like, you know, it's not going to help. You know, it needs to be an adult. Like, she really discouraged me. She didn't ask me if I was okay. She didn't check to see if I needed a doctor. I was a child. I was bleeding. I was terrified. And she just closed the door in my face. And that moment taught me something I wish I never learned. That woman, she didn't care if I lived or died. She didn't. Another time I was being abused by my mom. She was drunk. And she kept calling me in her room. And every time I went there, she would slap me, push me, punch me, you know, whatever, screaming at me in my face. She, you know, looked at me. You look like your daddy. You act just like that man. And she, you know, like, I hate you. And it got to the point where she choked me. So I thought I was going to pass out. So I went to my room, and there was one time, the one and only time I've ever called 911. I called 911, and I told them, you know, I think my mom might kill me. But when the police got there, she puts on that fake charm, you know, and she was like, well, she's on probation for fighting. She's always acting out. I'm like, what? That was my very first fight, you guys. And it just happens to, unfortunately, I was in a situation where I was bullied. I was told I'm going to fight you. And when she fought me, and it turned out the way she thought it was going to, I may have went a little overboard when I fought her, but I ended up on probation as a result of it. And so she used that to her advantage. They read my name, and they treated me like a criminal. They did not ask about my bruises or the claw marks on my neck from her choking me. They saw a black child with a record and decided that I deserved what happened to me. One of them even said, maybe she just needed her ass whooped. I'm like, what? Did you not see that she's been whooping my ass? Like, look at my face, look at my neck. And that's what they thought of me. A threat, a delinquent, not a child that was begging for help, but a little black girl who was aggressive and probably just needed her ass whipped. They told me if I called them again, that I would be the one going to juvenile hall. So I stopped calling. People didn't ask what happened to me. They didn't want to know what happened to me. They said I was violent. I was a troublemaker. I'm always fighting. But they never asked me why. No one. I even went to a therapist. She knew. I even explained to her I fight so much because they are approaching me and fighting me. And I'm being abused at home. So I feel like a lot of that aggression is coming out on the people that I was fighting. So she knew I was being abused at home. She didn't report it. She labeled me a pathological liar because my mom went to one of my sessions, and she told my mom everything I told her. My mom told her I was lying, and boom, I'm labeled. And they didn't know. They didn't even stop to think about the fights that I were in. They were for survival. They didn't think about the fact that I was homeless half the time, sleeping outside or sleeping with strangers, fighting adults who were trying to rape me, harm me, rob me, or whatever they were trying to do. They said, you only get one mother. And that justified the pain that she was putting me through. Always telling me I'm lying. My mother gaslit me. Everyone gaslit me. And then they also believed her. I wasn't seen as a child. I was the problem. I was the inconvenience. I was the burden. And the adults in charge, authorities who were supposed to help me, they did not. They did not. Police looked at me like I was the delinquent. Teachers saw me as disruptive. Even though I got good grades in class, I wasn't always the sweetest student. CPS saw me as too complicated, and my family saw me as someone who needed to shut up and not be saved. Just shut up. I was suspended over and over. I got expelled from school. I got jumped. I was jumped by like 20 or 30. I always say about 50 people. It was just a swarm of adults came to my school on the campus and jumped me. And I was in the 10th grade, and I was expelled. Not once did they ask me why I was acting out. Not once did they say what happened to you. They never said, ever, are you okay? What's wrong? But the thing that hurts me the worst, one of the worst memories I carry, it wasn't all of the punches and bruises. It was when my mom looked me in my face and said, you'll never be anything but a whore. Either a whore or a junkie drug addict, or you're going to end up dead or in jail. And if you have kids, if you ever have kids, I feel sorry for them. That wasn't discipline. That was not destruction. That wasn't, what was it called? A lesson. That was destruction. That was straight destruction. And she wasn't the only one who failed me. The police, the schools, Child Protective Services, my family, they all watched me drown and blamed me for not learning how to swim. And the most haunting question I used to ask myself over and over again is, if I wasn't so black or so dark, because that's what my mom used to always tell me. She used to call me a black bitch. You black, fucking black bitch, black bitch, black bitch. Because my mom was a very high complected woman. And she made me, and again, in another episode of my my challenge that I do every day, I spoke about a time where I was mistreated in my family because of how dark I was. So it's like, if I was not as dark as I was, would someone have helped me? If I was a little lighter, would someone have called the cops for me instead of on me? Would I have been treated like a child who needed help instead of a problem who needed punishment? Because I learned this at a very young age. Black girls can scream, bleed, beg, cry, snot, and people will still look at us like we're dangerous instead of damaged. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurting. I wasn't wild. I wasn't angry. I was hurting. I wasn't wild. I was abandoned. So I was hurting. I wasn't angry. I was crying out for help. I wasn't wild and out. I was abandoned, and I had to survive. And a lot of people just continue to overlook me. They made it seem like, again, it's your fault. It's your fault. Why is it my fault? How is it my fault when I am a child? So you get to questioning yourself. You get to wondering, what is your worth? Who are you here for? Why are you going through this? I'm not worthy of anything. And I also always felt like it was because of how dark I was, because they made it perfectly clear that I wasn't light enough for, to fit in with their little group. And if this sounds similar to your story too, I need you to know that you were never, ever the problem. You were a child who needed protection, and they failed you. But your pain is real. Your story is valid, and you are not alone anymore. You're not alone anymore. So let's widen this lens, okay? I like to always talk about myself, but I also like to discuss other people who were failed by the system. What happened to me wasn't just me. It wasn't just an isolated incident. It's a pattern. It was part of a pattern. When it cuts across policing, media, schools, families, and systems that were supposed to protect, but instead they punish. There was a young lady, Relicia Rudd, and in March of 2014, she was 8 years old, and she disappeared from a homeless shelter in DC. She disappeared at 8 years old. It took them 18 days to even notice that she was gone. Now, how do you not notice an 8-year-old child is missing for 18 days? And the janitor, he took her. Surveillance footage confirmed that the janitor took her. And decades later, this baby is still missing. And her story stayed local. There was no national news, no outrage waves all over the internet or all over national TV like some other girls who come up missing, and they come up missing in Florida, and we're hearing that in California. This little girl's story stayed local, stayed in DC. Black girls are undercovered, their families are undermined, and their lives are deemed expendable. They're not covered. When I say undercovered, I don't mean like under the cover. I mean that they're not protected. They're not covered. So Black girls are just kind of left to fend for themselves. This baby's case forced DC to rethink shelters and child welfare, but only after she was taken. The spotlight arrived too late. And she's not alone. There was another girl, young girl, Akia Eggleston, I think I'm saying her last name right, missing in 2015 from the Bronx. Or Keisha Jacobs, missing in 2022 from Louisiana. Cases that got very little coverage, little national attention, and zero momentum. Missing girls, missing coverage, missing justice. Across America, Black girls are punished before they're even seen as children in need of care. Government data shows that Black girls represent 15% of public school girls in 2017 and 2018, but received nearly 45% of suspensions and expulsions. So how are there less Black girls in public schools, but they're receiving almost half of the suspensions in the school? How does that make sense? And the stories that back this up are in, time.com, 15 Vogue. Okay, I'm gonna put all of this stuff in my description. But another story, armed school police have assaulted Black girls at a very high rate. Oh, that's what that is saying. I'm sorry. I write some of this stuff down so that I won't forget it. It says stories that back this up. That's what I was supposed to be saying. Excuse me, you guys. Stories that back this up are that armed school police have assaulted Black girls at a very high rate, at an unimaginably high rate of 84.4% of reported assaults by school officers that involved Black students. So out of officer reported assaults in the schools for Black students, 84.4% of that were girls. So all these little girls are being attacked by police officers that are supposed to be there to protect us. That is not safety, that's criminalization. Meanwhile, studies on adultification bias shows adults perceive Black girls, even as young as 5, as less innocent, more knowledgeable about sex, and deserving a harsher treatment. We're expected to be strong, quiet, resilient, even when our childhood is criminalized. So let's break that down. Adultification is the belief that Black girls are older and tougher than they really are. There's 2 little kids, they're both 5, but because I'm Black, I am perceived to be older and tougher than I really am. And that goes back hundreds of years, rooted into slavery, stereotypes, hypersexuality, and dehumanization. When school staff says she's sassy or disrespectful, they're saying she's choosing to cross a line. She's choosing to cross a line. They don't consider that she's a hurt kid in survival mode. The bird gets you suspended. This gets you suspended and turned over to the police and sometimes even arrested. Why? And once you've been arrested at the school, the chances that you'll finish high school, that drops. The chances that you'll land in prison, that'll go up. That's the school to prison pipeline, and Black girls are just right there in it. Society loves to call Black women strong. It sells memes and it tugs at applauses. Yay, the strong Black women. And we are strong Black women. There's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm proud to be a strong Black woman. But here's the truth. That strong label is a weapon, and it excuses abuse, erasure, and trauma. The moment you express pain or vulnerability, you're too loud, too emotional, too dramatic, And even in Black families, there's a code that says we stay strong. Don't embarrass us. She's just being dramatic. That's not strength. That's survivalism. This romanticized version of strength makes our suffering invisible. It turns trauma into character building so that the system never has to fix shit. This pattern becomes normalized even inside of our own circles. A Black girl gets hurt, but speaking up feels like betrayal. I get hurt, but when I tell on the person that hurt me, I'm the one I'm the wrong one. I'm betraying my abuser. Like, really? Not just a family member, but the myth of Black invincibility. The myth that us as Black women are invincible. No, we are not. We bleed like everyone else. That's how the system stays alive, by forcing trauma underground, by making us responsible for our healing, for our own healing. It says, if you break, it's your fault. If you break, it's your fault. You hear me saying all these things that are backed up against us, not only outside of our community, but also within our community, the things that happens to us from the people who are supposed to love us that look like us. But if we break, it's our fault. We're sensitive. We're dramatic. We're overreacting. We're gaslit beyond gaslit. So again, this isn't just my story. It's the story of every Black woman, every Black girl who's been told she's strong but broken, who's been ignored by the police. Because I've been ignored by that situation with my mom. That was just the start. I mean, go to my challenge. Every day I share a story, and at least 2 times within the 7-8 days, or however, I don't know what day. I think I'm on day 13. Yay! But I talked about the police just allowing my ex-husband to abuse me because, hey, this is a domestic situation. AKA, you're a Black woman, deal with it yourself. So, like, again, this isn't just my story. Who's been ignored but the police? Who's been ignored by the police? I said but the police, by the police. Who's been erased but forced to survive? Who? If you're listening and this resonates with you, know the pattern. Naming it is the first step in breaking it. Next, we're going to talk about how we can reclaim our narratives, how we now fight for ourselves, for each other, for girls no one's ever heard, because no one's going to fight for us. No one. We're going to have to fight for ourselves. And there's something that happens when the world catches you, watches you suffer, and then it turns its back on you. There's something that really happens to you when the world watches you suffer and turns their back on you. When you cry for help and then the door closes. That situation with CPS was not the first or the last door that closed in my face. When bruises on your face mean less than the lies your abuser tell to cover them. That's a problem. That's a problem. When the cops look at you in the eye and still decide that you're the problem, no matter what you tell them, you don't just stop trusting people. You stop trusting yourself. You start to believe that your pain isn't even real. It's not real. And after a while, you stop being sure of anything. Was I really hurt that bad? Was it actually really abuse? Maybe I was just being too dramatic. Maybe I do deserve it. That's what they made us believe. I learned to doubt my own reality, my own pain, because if nobody cared about me, I must not be that serious. I must not be worthy, right? Wrong. That's how deep gaslighting goes when you're a Black woman or a Black girl in pain. You start to think, maybe I imagined it, but you didn't. You shrink yourself, you silence yourself, and you pretend strength. You put on this armor, this mask of strength to hide the pain that's really deep down in there that you have to cover up, or you're going to be labeled something. I became an expert at shrinking. I became an expert at holding it in, at performing like I was just the strongest thing, and that I made me worthy of love. I'm worthy of whatever. I call it my mask. And I learned how to smile even when I wanted to scream, cry, yell. My husband tells me this all the time. We could be in a full-blown argument like there is no tomorrow. I could be screaming, crying, farting, snotting, or whatever, and someone will walk up to me. And many times people did not even realize. They'll call me on the phone, hey, how you doing? I'll just immediately turn it off. Immediately turn it off. Because I know how to put on that mask. So I know how to smile when I want to scream. I know how to walk into the school the day after getting my ass beat by my mom, and I have done this, or the day after being raped, or the day after being tortured, and I would go to school the next day and joke around like I was fine, and I wasn't. Because Black girls don't get the space to break down. We don't get to fall apart. We're expected to be strong. We're expected to be strong even when we're dying inside. People raise your resilience without ever asking why you needed it in the first place. You numb yourself just to function. You shut yourself down just so that you can make it through the day. There were days I didn't feel anything, and that scared me more than any pain ever has. Because feeling nothing means that you've been hurt so much that your body just shuts down to survive. And I walked around numb, disassociated, and out of my body. It's like my spirit just detached because being present hurt too much. It hurt too much. And when you live in constant survival mode, you stop dreaming, you stop hoping, you stop believing there's more than life than just making it through the next day. That's all there is. And let me just make it through tomorrow. And the armor I built and what it cost me. It cost me. The walls that I built, they could withstand anything. And I became hard, cold, emotionless on the outside. I love my kids. People who I allowed to get close to me, I showed them love. But other than that, I don't care about you. I did not care about you. I had to keep that up. I had to, because if I didn't, if I allowed myself to break, I was just cold. I thought that would protect me. I thought if I could just act like nothing could touch me, nothing could break me. But that armor came at a price. I lost part of myself, my softness, my creativity, my trust, my joy. I became suspicious of kindness, and I still am suspicious of kindness to a point. I'm getting better. I saw love as a setup. I flinched at hugs. I didn't like to be hugged. I don't like hugs. I mean, I do, but I don't, I don't like to be touched. I don't, unless you are my kids or my husband, I don't want to be touched or kissed, but I will to keep things from being awkward, but I never really liked it. But that was just that armor. I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I don't know how to be vulnerable without feeling like I will be punished for it. The armor made me survive. But it also made me lonely because for years I was not allowing myself to be in a relationship. And it's hard as hell to heal when you don't know how to let anything in. To allow yourself to heal, you have to become vulnerable to your past, to your emotions, to your feelings. And if you're putting that armor on and smothering those emotions and feelings, you're not going to be able to heal. And I think the hardest part of all is realizing that the emotional damage doesn't go away when the bruises do. The world moves on, but I was still bleeding inside. And the truth is, no one comes to save the little Black girl. She learns how to save herself. But the cost of that independence, it loses my innocence. I became my own protector, my own witness, my own healer. But I shouldn't have had to do that. If you're listening to this, and if you ever been there too, if you ever felt invisible inside, discarded or blamed for your own pain, I want you to hear me right now. I want you to hear me right now. It was real. You were not and are not crazy, and it was never your fault. It was never your fault. That emotional fallout is really heavy, but healing is possible, and you are worthy of every single ounce of it, every ounce of it. So if you were ever ignored, overlooked, or treated like your pain was your fault, this message is for you. This is me saying you mattered then and you matter now. I know what it feels like to be a child in pain, standing in front of adults who could have helped me but did not. To scream silently while the world keeps spinning like your trauma doesn't exist, to watch people choose your abuser's charm over your truth. So today I want to do something powerful. I want to witness the girl I used to be. And maybe by doing that, you can witness yours too. So I'm going to close my eyes, but I'm not going to close my eyes. I'm going to imagine my eyes closed because, again, I had to read a lot of this stuff. I cannot memorize all this stuff, you guys. I am not perfect. Love it. But imagine my eyes closed and I see her, that 14-year-old girl, alone, swollen face, dry blood all around her nose, standing outside of this building in the dark. I had my hoodie on and I kind of pulled it over my head tight, and my eyes were just wide and I'm scared, exhausted, and the hope was fading. But that little girl, she's not knocking anymore. She already tried that. They closed the door. Now she's just sitting on the curb, holding her arms tight across her chest, trying to figure out how to survive one more night. And I walk up. Me, the woman she grew up to be, not broken, not dead, not what they predicted, but powerful, clear, and finally safe. And I kneel down next to her. And I say, baby girl, you are not invisible. You are not the problem. You are not crazy, violent, or a liar. You are a child. You are hurting, beautiful, brilliant. You are a brilliant child who should have been seen and protected. I'm sorry that I failed you. I'm sorry they failed you because I couldn't fail myself. I'm sorry they failed you. I'm sorry they looked at your bruises and looked away. I'm sorry they told you to toughen up instead of telling you to rest. I'm sorry they only saw your fight and not your fear. And I am so proud. I'm so proud of you for surviving what they never even tried to understand. You don't have to perform anymore. You don't have to carry shame for that was never yours to begin with. You don't have to carry shame that was never yours to begin with. You don't have to be hard. You just have to be heard. I see you, and I am not going anywhere. And if that little girl sounds like you, if you're listening right now with a lump in your throat because no one ever said this to you, let me be the one. You didn't imagine it. You didn't make it up. You were a child, and they should have protected you. And you didn't even have to be a child. You were a woman in a bad situation, and they did not protect you. I believe you. I honor your pain. I see you. I see the way you still showed up, the way you carried yourself through the fire. You deserved more, and you still do. So to every Black girl who's ever been mistreated, misunderstood, or to made feel like her pain was too loud, I see you, I believe you, and you are not what they did to you. You're not what they did to you, not then, not now, not ever. You are not behind, you are becoming, and you are doing better than they ever let you believe. Whew. I need to calm myself. I'm getting goosebumps because I'm getting a little emotional, because this brings up a lot of times that I've been let down by people who I thought loved me as an adult and as a child. So, and I also do blame, my color. I mean, it's a lot of times I have had people flat out tell me I don't fuck with dark skinned girls, like he would never mess with you because you're dark skinned. They don't like, it's just, there comes a moment after all the silence, all the shame, all the time that they made you feel small, saying shit like that, when you stop asking for permission to be heard, when you stop waiting for someone to save you, you stop needing them to care, and you start telling your truth anyway. That moment, that's the shift. For me, the shift came when I realized I wasn't broken. I was just buried. I was buried under their denial, under their silence, under their fear of facing the harm that they helped cover up. But the truth, they never erased me. They never erased me. They just underestimated the power of a girl who survived everything they threw at her and still stood up to speak. And that's what I'm doing now. That's what Empowered Voices is about. That's what this challenge, my story, my strength, that I do every day, every single day. And I'm doing it for the rest of this year until my birthday next year. That's what that is about. It is not just storytelling. That is what Insights of a Survivor it's about. It's about soul reclaiming. Because for so long, people like me, Black girls who were hurt, abandoned, criminalized, and were made invisible, our stories didn't fit the headlines. Our pain didn't get protests. Our survival didn't get celebrated. So we built platforms, we created space, and we told the truth ourselves. I didn't start this to be popular. I started this because I was tired of being erased, tired of trauma being normalized and swept under the rug like it wasn't still as shocking, still as devastating, still choking us decades later. Tired of waiting for the world to care about Black girls. So I stopped waiting. And now I speak for her. The girl who had to fight adults to feel safe. The girl who had to call for help and got handcuffed instead. The girl who was told to respect her mother while being choked unconscious by the same person. I speak for me. I speak for you. And I don't whisper anymore. I never really did, but I really don't now. Because there is power in our stories. There is power in calling it what it is. Abuse, neglect, abandonment, systematic failure, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. And there is power in saying, I survived and I'm still standing. So no, I'm not shrinking. I'm not sugarcoating it to make people comfortable anymore. I'm not toning down my truth to protect anyone's ego. I'm reclaiming it all. My voice, my strength, my story. Oh, that's my That's my challenge. My voice, my strength, and my story. And you could do it too. That's what this platform is for. That's what this community is for. And if you've ever been silenced, shamed, or made to feel that like you had to earn your right to be seen, and it doesn't matter what your race is, what your gender is, whatever. If you have done that, I want you to know that you don't have to play small anymore. This shift, this is us rising unapologetically, loudly, and together. So let's take a moment and let's say the names of Black girls and women the world forgot because the media didn't see them as marketable, because law enforcement dragged their feet, and because society decided they were not worth fighting for. Relicia Rudd, 8 years old, last seen leaving DC homeless shelter with a janitor who later killed himself. There was no Amber Alert, no CNN special, just silence. Akia Eggleston, 8 months pregnant when she vanished in Baltimore. She missed her own baby shower. The police were slow to get there, and the media was even slower. Keisha Jacobs, disappearing after visiting a friend. Her mother is still searching for her, still pleads for help, and the world barely listens. These aren't just stories. These are lives ripped from families, erased from headlines, and ignored by systems that weren't ever built to protect us. And if you think this is old news, then you're probably the problem. This is happening right now in your city, in your neighborhood, in your family. I want you to ask yourself, would you even know their names if they didn't look like me? Ask yourself that. That's the truth that we have to sit in. That's the truth that we have to sit in. So people like to say all the time heals all wounds. But what about the wounds that no one ever acknowledges? Silence isn't neutral. It doesn't just exist. It shapes us. It rewrites our identity. And for Black girls and women, silence becomes a sentence. When the world doesn't respond to our pain, we start to believe that we're exaggerating. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. When we are gaslit, we start to believe and doubt ourselves. And that maybe it wasn't that bad at all. And that maybe we should just let it go and move on. You just need to let that go. Girl, you tripping. You just need to let that go. You overreacting. You just need to let that go. But let me tell you, you're not overreacting. You were ignored, dismissed, or disbelieved. Or they just didn't want to deal with the fact that they hurt you. They did something to hurt you. And they don't want to face themselves. So you were gaslit. The school counselor who said You were too mature. The cop who laughed at your fear. The news anchor who reported everything other than the missing child, the little black girl, but never showed your face. And never showed your face. These are not misunderstandings. That's erasure. Silence teaches us that our pain is an inconvenience. It teaches us to perform strength so we don't make others uncomfortable. You hear what I said? Perform strength. So that strength is not something that we are able to learn ourselves. That is forced upon us. That is forced upon us. We are told to be strong. I mean, we are strong because we deal with what we deal with, but we don't realize the strength in ourselves because we're too busy trying to be what their version of strong is. So we have to perform strength so that we don't make them uncomfortable. And that teaches us that we have to bleed quietly. But I'm not here to bleed quietly anymore. I'm here to call it what it is, systematic abandonment. And if you're listening and you've experienced that same kind of silence, I want you to know you're not alone and you're not crazy. They saw you. They seen you. They know what they did to you. They know what you went through. They saw what someone else did to you. They just didn't care. And that's the pain that we're still unlearning today. That's the pain that we're still unlearning today. There's every moment in every survivor's journey where you stop looking for rescue and start building your own foundation. For me, that moment came when I realized that no one was ever going to come, ever. Not the media, not the justice system, not the community, not my family, not people that I love more than you can imagine. And if I didn't speak out for the little girl I used to be, that no one else would. So this episode is me doing that. And to anyone who's listening who relates, who was hurt and unheard, abused, and ignored, I need you to hear this with your whole soul. You are not disposable. You never were. Your pain was never too much. You didn't imagine. And I know I'm saying the same things over again because I want you to understand and be clear. You were not being dramatic. You were abandoned. You were failed. And you survived anyway. That makes you powerful. That's your strength. Not what they told you what your strength was. The fact that you survived all of this anyway. That makes you dangerous, though. That makes you a force they can't erase anymore. This platform isn't just about survival. It's about testifying. Because when we tell the truth, we stop the cycle. And I'm not stopping. Not for their comfort, not for their denial, and definitely not for their fake outrage. So, we're winding it down. Before I close out, I want to make sure that everyone who needs access to real support gets that. And if you're someone who's experiencing any type of mental health issues, or if you know what your story is, and if you need any help, you can reach out to Black Emotional and Mental Health Collective, BEAM. And the website is beam.community, https://www.beam.community. And what do? They provide training, advocacy, and resources to remove barriers to mental health care for Black communities, focusing on healing, justice, and trauma-informed care. And why it matters is they center Black women and girls in healing from systematic trauma and offer accessible mental health tools. I have this one and another resource in the description. So if any of you want to get a hold of those, their link is going to be in the descriptions. You click those links, find out how they can help you. But there are so many resources that we didn't even know were out there. Okay. So before I close today, I want to leave you with a truth spoken by Viola Davis, a Black woman who knows what it means to be unseen and underestimated. What she said was, they didn't see me when I was hurting, but they'll hear me now. I am not their secret to ignore. I am the truth they try to bury, okay? This is the anthem for every Black woman and who has ever been overlooked, dismissed, or erased. So I'm going to read that again. They didn't see me when I was hurting, but they'll hear me now. I'm not their secret to ignore. I'm the truth they tried to bury. That's our anthem. Black girl anthem, you guys. That's what's up. I love that. For too long, our pain was invisible. Our stories were pushed aside. Our voices muffled under the weight of indifference. But now, our silence is breaking. Our power is rising, and we are no longer content to be secrets or shadows in the margins. You're not going to have me as a secret anymore. I'm coming out of the shadows. We are the truth that demands to be heard, the history that refuses to be forgotten, the future that will not be denied. If you have felt unseen or unheard, know this: you're not alone. Your story matters. Your pain is valid. Your survival is power. And as we continue to speak, share, and stand in our truth, we build a community that no longer tolerates erasure. Y'all get my point. We're not going to be erased anymore. So when they didn't see us, we became unbreakable. When they ignored us, we became unstoppable. This is our time. This is our voice. This is our power. Thank you for being here. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you for choosing to no longer be invisible. If this message moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Please like this episode. Comment with your own story or name that deserves to be heard. Share this with a sister, a friend, or a warrior who needs to be seen. And subscribe to stay connected to this community of strength and survival. Together, we will make invisible impossible to ignore. Until next time, keep healing, keep loving, and keep listening to the stories that change lives. Thank you so much for tuning into Insights of a Survivor. Until next time, bye, you guys.
Heard you looking for a hero. Well, look up. No more running from the bad guy. I'ma stare him in the eye like, what's up? I know the journey got hard for a minute, but I ain't giving this up. Yeah, I got the heart of a champion.